U.S. Secretary of State Rubio is in Israel for talks with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Foreign Minister Gideon Saar. His visit comes after the U.S. scolded Israel for launching an attack in Qatar, a U.S. ally. Rubio stated talks would be held on the impact that the strike, which targeted Hamas leaders, has had on efforts for a truce in Gaza. Still, Rubio stressed the attack has not changed U.S.-Israeli relations. And for more, let's bring in DW correspondent Tania Krämer in Jerusalem. Tania, Israel's strike targeting Hamas leaders in Doha will be high on the agenda. What have you been hearing so far?
Well, absolutely. I think this is one of the main issues here, and we heard the Foreign Secretary Mairav Rubio to talk about this here in length with his Israeli counterparts. He said again, on his trip that he wants to understand what impact, quote, it's going to have on efforts to get all the hostages back, get rid of Hamas and end the war. And he also added that this is, of course, the top priority of U.S. President Donald Trump. Donald Trump has voiced, his concern after those strikes in Doha targeting the Hamas negotiating team there in Qatar, that he was very unhappy and the strike did not really advance any Israeli or American goals. Now, this comes, of course, also while the Israeli offensive on Gaza City is ongoing, where we're expecting ground troops also entering the Gaza City, and there have been also, of course, it's great to see whether Rubio will address that as well. But I think he will also meet, and that's very important here, with the relatives of those hostages held in Gaza by Hamas, and they have come out very strongly against this Israeli strike on the negotiating team. They have actually accused of their own Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of putting more obstacles for those talks, of sabotaging the talks, and they will certainly closely watch what Marco Rubio will do here.
Yeah, and Tania, how will the plan by several Western states to recognize the state of Palestine this month factor in to today's meeting?
Well, I think it's also one of the many topics that we're expecting to be here on the agenda during the visit. And we heard the Trump administration already, voicing their objection, saying that this recognition, is a unilateral measure they don't really support. Marco Rubio hinted at that as well, saying that he's expecting, an Israeli response. Now, we've heard from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he's completely, he has reiterated this several times in past months, rejecting the notion of any Palestinian state. But also we heard from government officials that they are pushing for a full or partial annexation of the Israeli-occupied West Bank. And I think also, not just here in the region, people will looking in the Palestinian territories, will be looking at this, what Marco Rubio and what the U.S. position is on all this, but also here in the region.
All right, DW correspondent Tania Krämer there in Jerusalem. Tania, thank you so much.
People in Gaza City are fleeing their homes as the Israeli military continues to ramp up its offensive there. At least 32 people were killed across Gaza City in a series of strikes on Saturday. Israel has called on residents to evacuate and head to what it calls a humanitarian zone in Al-Mawasi near Khan Younis in the territory's south.
Hundreds of thousands of Gazans are on the move once again. This time they are leaving Gaza City in the wake of escalating hostilities and evacuation orders from the Israeli army.
We're heading towards the unknown. We had to save our souls and our children. Where are we going to go? Only Allah knows. We never imagined that this would happen to us.
The situation is tough, a misery. There is no medicine, no safety, and no stability. There is nothing. How long is it going to be like this? It's been 2 years of war, and the third is about to start. Today we walked from Bet Lahia.
Israel has intensified strikes across the Gaza's largest city. It has destroyed multiple high-rise buildings after accusing Hamas of putting surveillance equipment in them. On Saturday, the Israeli army urged residents of Gaza City to move to a humanitarian zone in the southern part of the territory. But many are hesitant to relocate, fearing that no area in Gaza is safe.
I am displaced every 4 months. Where are we supposed to go? I'm appealing to all the Hamas leaders living abroad. A few days ago, you were targeted in Qatar. Feel what we are feeling. You've been hit by one missile there. We've been facing missiles here for 2 years. Please have mercy on us. Stop the war. Enough is enough.
The Israeli Defense Forces estimate that 250,000 Gaza City residents have already left, out of a population of about 1 million. The UN and aid groups have repeatedly warned that displacing hundreds of thousands of people will only worsen the dire humanitarian crisis.
For more, let's go to Mairav Zonszein, senior analyst on Israel at the International Crisis Group, and she joins us now from Tel Aviv. Mairav, the U.S. Secretary of State arrived in Israel to get answers on Netanyahu's way forward in Gaza. Is there any more indication, as far as you can see, that there is a plan for Gaza?
It's good to be with you. I mean, I think the plan for Gaza is what we've seen and are seeing on the ground. We're seeing the destruction of buildings. We're seeing killings of civilians in large numbers and basically making Gaza more and more uninhabitable now in Gaza City, which is one of the few places that has been left still standing. So I don't think that there's any kind of, mystery as to what Israel's doing. Israel's trying to get people in Gaza to move again to areas that we already know are not safe, and ultimately openly says that what they call voluntary emigration from Gaza, but we all know is forcible displacement from Gaza. This is the plan. This is what has been happening. I don't think there's any mystery about that, and I think Secretary of State Rubio is very well aware of this.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said eliminating Hamas leaders would end the war in Gaza. Is that the only way to stop the fighting?
Of course not. And I think, as crisis group, we've said from the very beginning of this war that destroying Hamas is not an achievable goal. And most military officials in Israel already agree long ago that Hamas has been debilitated as a military wing, that it no longer poses an immediate threat to Israel. The way to end the war is to end the war, something that most Israelis want. And this current incursion into Gaza City is something that even the military advocate general in Israel, somebody who has legally okayed much of the destruction of Gaza, has put her foot down to say that there are humanitarian concerns about where these people are supposed to go. The IDF chief of staff has ignored that. But I mean, basically everybody except for Israel's cabinet understands not only the humanitarian disaster of this, but also that it won't achieve the goal of destroying Hamas. So we're just kind of in the same cycle over and over again.
I want to get your perspective on this. Has Israel's strike targeting Hamas leaders in Doha had any meaningful effect on Netanyahu's relationship with Washington?
I mean, I think that's something that we have yet to see. I would be very careful, in terms of the rhetoric coming from Trump, coming from Netanyahu. I think what we need to pay attention to is actions and not words. We've heard Trump say over and over again that he wants to see an end to the war, but there is no end to the war. And on this issue also, I mean, Doha holds the biggest U.S. military base in the Gulf. It's quite astounding that Israel decided to do that. It's a question whether the U.S. was aware of it, how long before it was aware of it or not. Either way, I think, the proof in the pudding will be, will Trump take action to stop Israel on any level in Gaza? Will it take action to secure its allies in the Gulf against Israeli aggression? If these actions are taken, then we can assume that on some level, Trump and Netanyahu really are on different paths.
So much more to touch on, Mairav, but we'll have to end it there. That's Mairav Zonszein with the International Crisis Group in Tel Aviv. As ever, many thanks to you.
Thank you.